First thing I want to say is thank you ever so much.
Thank you so much.
People inside are amazingly strong, but I want to emphasize that it's a twin solidarity. I mean, obviously you know you are in solidarity with the people inside, but it's not just symbolic. This pressure is what forces them to the negotiating table, and it also is incredibly empowering and exhilarating to the people inside, whom I was able to meet with some of yesterday, fortunately. This is history making here, so, you know, it's hang tough. I mean, if you have to leave, go, but come back. You know, I mean, recognize the independent, individual contribution that you are making to this, because it is the numbers and the visibility which makes this work. So thank you, this is incredible. Now, a couple particular points. If you have been released recently, or you know somebody who's been released, encourage that person to call the damn legal office. This is the phone number on my chest, 632-9482, so we can compile a list. That way, people who are looking for missing persons can try to track that information down. You have to be persistent in calling this number. We're swamped. You get voicemail, leave a message, but then try again later. Give them the name. If you use a street name or a forest name in getting released, give them the name you're most comfortable with. If you didn't use a name, then I leave it up to you to figure out whether you want to do this at all, or whether you want to give some description. Note also that there's a message board at 420 Denny, corner of Olive and Denny. You know the place. Now, everybody here by this point, including our compatriots among the press, has stories to tell about the warm welcome we've all received from the Seattle police, and I'm sure everybody's starting to wonder where to go with this information. There is somewhere you can go. We do want to compile this. We want to compile it centrally, so listen well. This is what you need to do to give your eyewitness accounts of the brutality that you've experienced and witnessed. Number one, and most important, so we have one central clearinghouse for all of this, is to get it to the ACLU of Washington. A lot of you received flyers, and we're trying to get more down here, but for the moment, this is it. It's the ACLU at 206-624-2180, or if you're online, you can do an online incident report at www.aclu-wa.org. Now, I'm going to stand back here, and anybody who wants to approach me to take that number down until we're able to get more flyers is welcome to do that. In addition, some people here from the National Lawyers Guild are asking that you copy this information. I do emphasize copy it. First and foremost to the ACLU, so it goes to one place. Copy it as well to something we're calling the WTO file. Someone named John Medlin. I'm not going to recite this over the mic, but you can approach me for this. And again, we're going to get flyers to you that will say this. And also to the city of Seattle. I mean, after all, they have a process for this, right? But, do not only make your complaints to the police. Hopefully, we're all schooled now in that naivete. It won't go anywhere. Copy it there, though. Well, just one moment. Okay, and on that subject, finally, tomorrow there are going to be tables on Broadway set up for citizens of Seattle who don't know this to come by and fill out these incident reports right there. That's another option. Thank you. Okay. Quick question.
Okay, our friends are getting out, right? They're getting out a little bit at a time, but they're getting out on bail. They're getting out still with charge of attack. Is this acceptable? We know that there's a minor violence. We know that they have bogus charges of attack. How could this be acceptable? We know how to solve it. We know that direct action and civil disobedience is the way to get the goods. So what are we going to do?
so I wasn't attending that. We can take up the consensus stuff in a moment. I just want to finish the announcements. The final announcement, well, twofold. One is there are also going to be tables in the Pike Market area, but we don't have that yet. If you are a Washington lawyer, or if you're a lawyer at all in this crowd, please come to the back of the stage and talk to us. We need extra support. Okay, now, who's facilitating this? What's the order of business? Do we want to turn this back for the people's mic? Okay. Oh, the numbers again, I apologize. The Dan legal number that you're to call if you've been released from jail is 632-9482, and the ACLU phone number is 624-2180. Again, you can turn to the station. There you go. Thanks.
Okay, I think first of all, our friends are getting out bit by bit, right? Okay, but they still have, they're paying bail, they still have charges attached to them, and we know that the charges are bogus. We know that their rights are violated. They should not have to pay bail. They should be released free of charge. How have we won before? How have we succeeded? We've always succeeded in direct action, civil disobedience. We have not succeeded in trying to go through a proper channel, and that's what we're doing now. Is this acceptable? No! So what are we going to do about it? March downtown! Downtown! No, I'm not. I'd just like to announce there has been a group that's been discussing this very question. There's been a all night long, last night people have been here for hours and hours going through a process of consensus meetings to discuss these types of issues. So if you haven't been here for that long, those types of comments don't really need to surface right now. There's people that are on that exact question. Who's next? I don't know where they are right now. I know there was a meeting going on. I would expect if somebody from that group has an announcement, please come forth with it. If they don't, then they're probably still talking about it.
Hi, I just wanted to point out something. My name's Grant Cosgrove. I spoke up here a few minutes ago, about an hour ago.
Tomorrow, and for them to just let the government know about the medical teams. And I'm very, very sorry that this happened to you guys. Thank you.
Hey, I just wanted to bring up one more thing that we can do as people who live here that I haven't heard brought up too much, which is about a month and a half ago, the mayor and his special committee came back to us and told us they concluded that we did not need a citizen police review committee, that the police were doing an okay job reviewing themselves. So, when you're bored next week and thinking, what can I do to raise some shit in Seattle for these people, I'd say that's something that we stay on. We not only ask for that committee some media formation, but we want that committee to have jurisdiction over everything that happened in the last week for review.
There was agreement reached today that we would stand down, we would vacate the building in exchange for share and wheel, occupying the building and turning it into permanent homeless shelter. Yeah, it's a pretty good victory. We got Bob Santos from he's the executive director of HUD, Housing and Urban Development. He's in on it, and he's going to be dealing with the owner of the building as well as the people from Share and Wheel.
How many units are in there?
Well, what it is right now is it's 12 rooms, and they're very large rooms. They're artists. They were formerly artist studios. They're really big. I mean, I'm not sure, as far as a homeless shelter, how they would fit the bodies in there, but you can fit a lot of them. I know that. You could easily house 300 people there tonight. Easily.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I guess there's going to be some renovations to the building on the inside. They're going to have to do some work on that. You know, I know they're really anxious to get going on it though, because the tent city is coming down tomorrow, from what I understand. You know, I'm not positive about that, but you know, that's what I understand. Tent city's coming down tomorrow, and they want to have a place to put those people. You know, because just because the WTO over, man, the war against the homeless is not over. You know, the police, I mean, that's a constant thing here in Seattle, everywhere, really. You know, it's a war on the poor, you know, and the homeless are receiving the worst end of it.
And can you make the connection to the WTO?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's all due to a global economy. You know, we see the top half of 1% getting richer and richer and richer, and then, you know, the lower economy people, it's harder and harder all the time for them to even survive. You know, this gap between classes is widening so greatly. It's like, you know, gentrification everywhere is just so bad, especially in the neighborhood where we did this. This was a gentrification neighborhood. You know, as a result of the increase in property values, increase in rents, and increases in the cost of living, they're not matching up with the increases in the wage. You know, the wage increases aren't matching up. It's just not happening. You know, hey. You know, and more people are being forced into the streets. You know, there's the stereotypical image of the homeless person being some scruffy old man with a bottle of fortified wine in his hand, or typically a black person, you know, an African American, and that's just not the case, you know. And certainly there are a lot of African Americans who are homeless, and because there's also a cultural war against them. You know, they're targeted, and they're supposed to be fit into this bracket of the lower economy, you know, and you know, and the rich just keep getting richer off of the backs of those of us who are you know, out here trying to survive, you know, and you know, the workers of the world are like, what are they doing, man? They're the ones turning the wrenches and tightening the bolts and you know, punching the clocks and making sure the trains run on time and all this and that, you know, and it's just harder and harder for them to do anything at all. You know, because the people on top just want all this power and money. You know, and the WTO is a clear example of that. You know, I think the people have spoken clearly about how they feel about it here. You know, there was a lot of non-violent protests, and we saw as a result of that the WTO is absolutely not a democratic process. You know, there was a state of martial law declared in Seattle because of the WTO.
So speaking of the non-violent protests, what do you think about what the media's been saying about you?
You know, it's absolute fabrication. You know, I just want to make that clear that they're looking for a place to point a finger. You know, and because we had some anarchy signs on our building, and a good number of us inside were anarchists, they're trying to say that the anarchists are violent. Well, what about the Democrats that call for war in other nations? You know, they're murderers, flat out murderers.
Well, so the mainstream America associates the word anarchism with violence. You want to
with chaos.
Well,
you know?
Well, they do. Like my father says, you know, anarchists. They're rioters, right?
Yeah. What about the Boston Tea Party, man? That was totally. I mean, that was an act of resistance, is what it was, and that's what a lot of people are doing out in the streets.
So what's anarchy
to you? Same thing. Anarchy to me is self-rule. It's, you know, it's the idea that we don't need people to tell us how to live and what to do. That you know, we have the power to do that ourselves. You know, we don't. You know, I mean, we're not so dumb as human beings that we need another human being to tell us what to do. I mean, that's just a ridiculous concept. And, you know, the American public and much of the world has been duped into believing that they're so powerless that they can't control themselves. They can't, you know, live without somebody telling them, you know, which direction to go and what time to go there.
Are anarchists unorganized?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, I think this housing action clearly shows that. I mean, that was a very organized action.
What kind of organization?
Well, I don't think that it's necessarily an organization, but an organization, like an entity, but there's, you know, I mean, we can organize. We can come together as people and democratically decide on things you know, through a consensus process where everybody in the end is happy. Everybody's had their input, and there's no one person saying, well, it's going to be like this, you know, and you guys are just going to have to live with that because that's how it's going to work best. It's the way that the whole feels, you know, and sometimes it takes a long time to come to a decision, but in the end, it's the best decision that's going to work for the whole, you know, and everybody's in agreement on that, and you know, no matter how long it takes, it's what works best.
All right.
And you know, that's how I feel. You know, I don't think we need authoritarian rule.
Anything else you want to say?
You know, I think what we did with that housing action is a good thing. We're getting people off the streets.
Thank you.
So I have a question. Is there a plan for holding them accountable? I mean, not accountable, but is it like the follow through of what was agreed on? How is that going to work?
Okay. What it is, we sent around a sign up list, and a lot of the people that were inside, people that were involved in the occupation, and we did this outside after we declared victory. A lot of the people outside that were ground support signed up too. We got a lot of people that are going to follow up on this. You know, we've got Bob Santos, the executive director of Housing and Urban Development, is going to follow up on this. We've got Cher and Will, you know, and they're a respected. You know,
they've done this before.
They've been involved in this before. Lehigh's been involved in this before. They were there helping us out. You know, we've got a lot of people that are involved. You know, we're going to, you know, keep the burner under this guy's feet, man. You know, regardless of what he says. I heard at one point there, after we were all out in the streets, kind of dancing in the streets, you know, we won. He came out and he was like, oh, you didn't win! I tricked you, I'm going to turn it into an office building. And,
have a cigar.
Thank you. I don't smoke, but that's cool. That's another misconception about our house, you know, is that a lot of people, I guess, were assuming that we were in there just a bunch of rowdy kids and they're partying and stuff. You know, there's no smoking in the house, no drugs in the house, no alcohol in the house, no weapons in the house, no violence in the house, and you had to respect the house and the people in it as well as yourself. And if you were found in violation of those rules, you would be addressed, and if you didn't want to agree with the group consensus about that, then you'd be asked to leave and not welcome back. You know, and that's the way it works. You know, but yeah, we got a lot of people backing us up. A good friend of mine just came back from Europe a couple days ago, and he's been trying to catch up with this. He's been very politically involved with a number of issues. I mean, his main concern for a number of years was the rights of Native Americans, the Western Shoshone Defense Project, which is another really important thing. You know, and they're starting to win some ground as well. He came back, he showed up right as we were entering the street and leaving the building. He signed on to do some follow-up help, and he's very knowledgeable in how to take care of these political actions. You know, he's got a degree and all this and that, if that accounts for anything. But you know, I mean, yeah, we got people that are committed to seeing this through, you know, no matter how long it takes. Right up over a couple blocks from here, there's the Pacific Hotel, which is an Operation Homestead project. They occupied the place for a week, and they left the building. You know, they left the building after a week. A few of them got arrested. You know, and they got out of jail though. All right. You know, and the story behind that is that they hounded the owners. Seafirst Bank, they hounded them. I heard they did Christmas caroling outside of their houses. I heard they pestered them in the streets, different things of this nature. And finally they just said, okay, you know, we'll agree, you can have the building. You know, and they negotiated the building, and it's now I'm not sure exactly the nature. Is it a homeless shelter or
low-income housing?
Low-income housing, yeah. Is it self-managed?
No, they didn't win that one.
That's okay. Well, whatever. You know, I mean,
people off the street.
It's a victory for low-income housing.
Yeah.
You know, our high hopes are that we can have low-income, self-managed housing. Like the Orion Court is an example of that, which is a Lehigh thing. Lehigh stepped in and helped.
Another building takeover.
Yeah, that was a building takeover just like this.
Glen Hotel.
Okay.
And you know, and that's a successful deal there, where now they are under self-managed low-income housing. Their rents range from $5 to $85, whatever. You know, the occupants decide on that by, I'm assuming by, you know, by whatever the person can afford, and so on and so forth. Another interesting one is Centro de la Raza occupied a building, and they never really came to negotiations with the owner, but they occupied it for a year, and after that year somehow declared it their own. Somebody, one of the media people just explained this to me, and I was just like, wow, that's awesome. You know, they held their ground, they stuck to their mud for a year in this building, and now they occupy it legally. I don't know if that's like some sort of precedent, I don't know. U.S. history is here in Seattle at the Coleman School, which was occupied and was the African American Heritage Museum and Cultural Center, and the thing about that is that, you know, it was 8 years that they occupied, and then I'm unclear about the next 4 years up until now, but I know they're trying to reoccupy the building, and this goes back as well to the WTO and corporate power and the sort of inherent violence, racism, and sexism that comes along with that. There are a couple people vying for ownership of that property. They want to turn it I think it's King County Executive Ron Sims had a bid in, and he wants to make it condos. You know, to me, what this is a clear-cut act of cultural terrorism. You know, there's been an obvious war against African Americans and any ethnic peoples in America. You know, lower class white people as well, but you know, the blacks have been having a hard time, man. You know, the Civil War or the Civil Rights Movement it's not over. I mean, you know, there was great strides.
Right, right.
Justify this. Why is this person a direct husband the motorcycle? And so, and then, like, basically either get that cop, and all the cops take off your tape,
Oh.
Get his good side. There's something going on.
Turning of the world and independence. Make a bit of difference. So it's alright if they burn some bridges tonight. And
I drove out to San Point. I was the only person out there besides a couple of news people. Wasn't anything I could do out there. Good to see you.
Well, I put the rush limb off for all my back. He brings down the world while keeping it intact. He tells me how my economy works.
ACLU, have you talked to him? It's good to see you. Yeah, you bet.
Thank you for your concern.
Yes, you're welcome.
I like my color TV. It was legendary.
Here is noted just the incredible sight of seeing the sea turtles and sea workers together.
What were the commitments he was going to do?
The website's in massive hits. Hold it down and they are asking us to take some space and prepare for the today, I'm trying to.
Well, I didn't mean today.
Long term, yeah, you know, like
yeah.
oh, yeah. So that's what we do. And we have to come back all the way down.
So funny is that
Well,